Hi, welcome back to Box of Lights. In this video I want to give you a demonstration of Avalanche at Yeti Mountain from Green Couch Games. This is a review copy sent to me by UK distributor Stuvian Games. It does have a solitaire variant in, and I'm going to demonstrate that to you towards the end of the video. I want to show you how the multiplayer game works at the same time, so I'm going to show you how the game plays and then give you this little solo demo. Now I would say I'm not going to recommend it just for solitaire play. The multiplayer game is much more interesting. The solo game is just there to amuse you, in my opinion, when you're away from other players. But from a multiplayer game perspective, and for when you want to play some games with your family, you know I like showing some family games now and again. This one's real good fun. So the general premise is that you're skiers, you're skiing down mountain, and it's a race to the bottom of the mountain. But all the time, there's a couple of things chasing you. There's an avalanche, which is the primary threat. That's the thing that's going to take you out. But there's also this Yeti. And the Yeti is kind of controlled by the players more than the avalanche. The avalanche is something that's kind of racing down the mountain after you. Whereas the Yeti is always controlled by one of the players. It could be a different player each turn, and I'll show you how it works. And the Yeti is trying to catch these skiers. Now in the solitaire game, instead you're racing the Yeti down the mountain. He's your opponent, if you like. This is our mountain deck, and this has been shuffled, 60 cards, and this is what we're going to use to create our mountain. And our mountain always consists of 12 cards. This is the top of the mountain, this is the bottom of the mountain. Our avalanche starts at the top of the mountain and it's going to be racing down the mountain, chasing the Yeti and the skiers. Okay, let's set up two players. So we've got pink and yellow. Alright, we've got green, blue and orange as well. We can put those to one side. So pink and yellow begin at the top of the mountain, as does the Yeti. Each player is dealt 4 cards. This is their hand. Now, when you're playing the two-player game, let's show you the regular 3-player. Why don't we? Actually, let's go for green. When you're playing 2-player, there is a 2-player variant which gives you more cards. I guess the 3-player plus is where it's a little bit more interesting. Okay, so it's 1 to 5 here. They get a hand of 4 cards each. And in these cards, in this hand, they've each got these numbers. And these numbers are going to determine your speed down the mountain. And when you're playing 2-player, there's a speed limit of 7. If you're playing 3-player, there's a speed limit of 10. Now what that means is the combined speed of all the players has got a limit of 10. If you go over that, then you're going to be causing a little bit of disruption on the snow, on the mountain. But these guys aren't just normal skiers. No, they've got rockets on their skis. So these cards here represent when you're activating your rockets. And when you activate your rockets, you're going to cause a disturbance and you're going to speed up the avalanche. Okay, so how does this work? It's all about secret card selection. So if I want to be racing to the bottom, let's say the pink player chooses 3. Let's say the yellow player chooses a 4. That's 7 already. Okay, now these are kept in secret, right? We're placing them face down. That means if you've got 7 so far, if the green player chooses a 3 or lower, then we haven't exceeded the speed limit. Okay? If we choose a 4 or more, then we have exceeded the speed limit. Exceeding the speed limit is not necessarily a bad thing for you, but what it means is the fastest player, whoever picked the highest number, is the person who's going to crash out. Okay, let's say they choose let's do that. Let's say they choose a 4. Now, of course, you're trying to second guess what your opponents might be doing. They might be choosing low, thinking that other players might be choosing high. They don't want to be the fastest player. So there's lots of bluffing, counter bluffing, trying to second guess what your opponents are going to do. Now you all reveal, and we look at the sum of our cards. We've got 11. We've exceeded the speed limit. Now we've got 2 players who've gone speed 4. So pink's got a 3. They're going to move 3 spaces. And we're counting the circles on this downhill track. So for pink, that's 1, 2, 3. Now these ones with the crash symbols, this kind of splash here, they've got no significance. All it means is that it leaves you in a space that crosses with the Yeti's path. It's going to put you in danger. So it probably wasn't a good move for pink here to end up on one of those spots. All right, the 4s were much better. The problem is yellow and green have both gone with 4s, which is exceeding the speed limit. Yeah, we've got 11 altogether, speed limit 10. 2 or more players with the highest number, they're both going to crash. What that means is they can only move one space. So green goes next. He was the next one in line. Moves his one space. And now yellow does the same. Now they can't end. You can't have 2 skiers on the same spot. Remember, they've crashed out. They're only allowed to move one spot. That's all it means. They've exceeded. So they've had a little bit of a slip. All they do, if there's another skier here, you just step to the next available spot. That puts yellow here. So you can see right from the beginning there's a little bit of strategy here. Yellow's thinking, well, if somebody else picks a 4, I'm the last player to go, I'm the last in line, I might be able to jump over someone. Alright, so that was a good play. The next step we do is move the Yeti. Now the player who's furthest uphill, the green player, gets to move the Yeti. And the Yeti is moving on these pink paths, these pink dotted paths. Now the Yeti moves the speed of the fastest skier, which in this case was 4, right? That was our fastest speed, up to 4. Alright, so the green player can decide how many he wants him to move, 1, 2, 3 or 4. So we'll go, and we'll start in the middle one here. 1, 2, we can't move back up the mountain. We follow these paths, we can't move back up the mountain. It's always downhill. So we could have him move all the way down the bottom here. Or we could have him move in here and say 3. And crash with the pink player. Now if the Yeti moves through a space occupied by a skier, then he damages that player's rockets. So the pink player is not going to be able to use their rockets on the next turn. Alright, so we flip it over. And the final step now is moving the Avalanche. The Avalanche moves at its speed, so currently it's got a speed of 0. We've not caused an avalanche just yet. But when it starts to move, if it overtakes any of these skiers, they're going to be out of the game. Okay, let's clear away. Everyone draws back up. And everyone secretly selects again. Let's try some different stuff this time. Let's have the pink player. Let's play the 1. Let's get rid of this rubbish card. Yellow, on the other hand, he's going to play this 4. Remember, these are all face down. And then green at the back is going to play this 3. Okay. Everyone reveals. Now this time we haven't exceeded the speed limit, right? We've got 1, 4, 3. That's 8. Fastest skier goes first, so that's the yellow player with a 4. But they're going to rocket jump. Okay, now to rocket jump, there's 2 ways of doing it. The first way of doing it is playing a card from your hand with a speed symbol that matches the speed on the mountain. So you can see that this 4 in a blue square matches the 1 in a blue square. All right, we've got a green circle here, we've got an orange triangle here. So we match, we can now activate our rockets. So there's an added strategy here of being able to use your cards, potentially planning ahead, because you want to use your rockets, because these are the way you get ahead without overdoing the speed limit. Because effectively what this does is it allows you to jump the card you're on and jump straight to the next card. Right, the next section, we're kind of leaping over these ridges, if you like. But instead of our starting movement here, 1, 2, 3, 4, we start our movement on the next card. This is why it's called a rocket jump. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4, like so. Managed to skip a few steps and get a good lead. The downside is, not only are we taking a good lead, but every time you use your rockets, the avalanche speed goes up 1. So now the avalanche is going to start moving. Right, so everyone could play conservatively and not rocket, but then no one's going to find it easy to get out in front. You're going to leaving it to other players. Alright, who's got the next highest speed? It's green with their 3. And it's going to be 1, 2, 3, like so. So perhaps wiser would have been to play the black card and save this one for later. So let's assume they did that instead. Now pink, they were slowest. They got this one, it doesn't match, but there's a skier in front of them, so they jump to the next spot. Green is still furthest up the mountain, and with the highest speed of 4, they get to choose how they're gonna move the Yeti. Now green's still at the back, so let's say 1. We're going to knock out pink's rockets. They're still out of order. Let's see, 2, 3, 4. So both yellow and pink rockets are taken out. So green's doing okay, but he's stopped those skiers rocket jumping now. And now, of course, we're going to move that Avalanche. And the Avalanche has a speed of 1. And what you'll see on each card as we go down the mountain, there's these different ridges. This card's got 3 on, this one's got 3. There's one down here that only has 2 ridges, this one has 2 ridges. Okay, so we're going to move this Avalanche 1 spot because that's its speed. Okay, 1 space because of 1 rocket launch. Now these stragglers here, at some point this Avalanche is getting faster and faster and faster, and every go it's slower, it could potentially overtake them. So that's a tactic for the person at the front to take advantage of. So this Yeti mechanism that's stopping people jumping, remember they move on these symbols, not the circles, look out for that. This Yeti, being controlled by always the player at the back, kind of stops that person at the front, potentially, unless they're playing a little more cleverly and only getting on the spots that the Yeti can't reach. It stops these people kind of getting out too far. There's a little bit of a catch up for the person that's behind. And again, that's something that's really neat for the younger ones if you're playing as a family, because even if they're losing, they get the joy of moving the Yeti. Alright, so it's kind of a nice little compensation, which I really enjoy playing with the family, because you don't want your kids whining that they're losing and they're at the back. It's a nice little touch. Of course, the tension comes from this gradually getting faster and faster and faster and faster. And don't think that they're safe now because the Yeti's out ahead of them. Remember, when the green player moves the Yeti next, assuming they're still at the back, they might not be, this Yeti can move up the mountain or down the mountain, but what it can't do is change direction. Alright, in one move, either goes up or down. Right, and look at these little shortcuts. You can move them a very long distance if you wish. The other benefit here is that you can, if you wish, make the mountain shorter or longer. So the game says 12, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't just shorten it down to 10 or 8, or make it even longer if you wish a longer game. Obviously you may need to reshuffle your discard to create a new deck. Okay? So the game ends as soon as somebody moves off that final card or jumps over that final card with their rockets. Right, both pink and yellow got hit, so their rockets stay unaffected. Green's still here at the back, and they've got an opportunity now to catch up. What about this solo game then? How does this play? Well, you're going to take on the speed limit of 7, which is fine because you're the only person who's going to be using your cards. So when you're putting cards together, a 5 and a 2 is going to be fine, but a 5 and a 5 is not going to be fine. Because that's the other thing here, and the second way to rocket launch. Incidentally, when you're playing solitaire, and this is kind of why I think the solo game doesn't work quite as well, is there's less incentive to use your rocket jumps. In fact, doing so is often detrimental, and you may only wish to do it once you get further down the bottom of the mountain here, because it's only going to make the Yeti go faster. I'll come to that in a second. But let's look at this second way of rocket jumping. The second way of rocket jumping is to play 2 cards from your hand with the same symbol. You can always select 2 cards instead of 1 if they have the same symbol. So if I wanted to, with a speed limit of 10, I might go for 8. Now the idea here is that you might be seeing other players playing 2 cards. But have they played 2 1s or have they played 2 2s? Yeah, something quite low. Are they looking to rocket jump? So 5 and 3 is quite high. You can imagine a 2 and a 3 might be okay. You might get away with. Okay, get rid of 2 low cards, but also because they're the same symbols, you get to use your rocket at the same time on rocket jump. So not only are you going 8 spaces, but you get to jump a card as well. All right, a huge step down the mountain. And that's possibly where you might get away with it in the solo game. You're looking for high numbers in the solo game, as long as they don't break that speed limit of 7. Because in the solo game, It starts the same way. The speed of the Avalanche is 0. You've only got one skier, and you start on the first space. The Yeti starts on its first space. There's no other players in the game. You shuffle up and draw a hand as normal. So let's get our hand of 4 cards. And it plays exactly the same way, right? As far as picking cards and so on, right? We've got blue here. I've got no blue matching cards. I'm not so worried about that. Let's just play the 5. Okay. So I get to move 5 down the mountain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now every time you play a card, the speed of the Avalanche goes up. So you can see after the 9th turn, the speed of the Avalanche is going to be 9 already. And then for the Yeti, all you do is you draw a card from the top of the deck. And he has a 2. If the symbol matches, then that stops you rocket jumping. Okay, so if you drew a blue square and I was trying to rocket jump off a blue square, that would stop you. Alright, he hasn't, he's got a triangle. And then it would be 2. And this time you're controlling the Yeti and you're moving him his number of spaces down the mountain. 1, 2. And obviously you don't want to move him down the faster routes because that's going to cause you trouble, because the winner here is whoever reaches the bottom first. You've got to get to the bottom before the Yeti. So he's kind of on your tail this time. Alright, you're actually running away from the Yeti. And if he crashes through you, again, you lose your rockets. Alright, we start with our rockets active. Everything else is kind of the same. The difference is, now we see this moves forwards, we draw a card. Let's play 2 1s. We'll get the Yeti speed. He's a 4. So I'm going forward 2 spaces. I don't want a rocket launch. 1, 2. He's going to go forward 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's a long way down the mountain now. Okay, let's. This increases its speed. So now this goes forward 2 spaces. 1, 2. Okay, now let's draw back up. Let's see, what have we got? What have we got? I'm on a green. Let's get ourselves a. Well, let's use this one. We got a 3 and a 1. Let's use that. Okay, so we can rocket launch because we've got 2 cards of the same colour. There's a 2 for the Yeti. All right, 1, 2. He's down here. Let's rocket launch. Now, every time you rocket launch, we jump. Remember, and our speed is 4, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. We're kind of catching him up. We've played 2 cards, so the speed should have gone up. It would have been 3 last time. 1, 2. So it would have gone forward 1, 2, 3 like that. Yeah. Now the thing's going to go forward 5, but every time you rocket launch, you add another 1 to it. So that would make it 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. But not only that, whenever you use your rockets, the Yeti grabs another card and goes faster. He was lucky, it was only a 2 this time, but it can be that you might get a high number, right? Like a 4 or 5. So your rocket launching, although it might have only gained you a couple of spaces, might have gained the Yeti 4 or 5. Okay, so he goes another 2, 1, 2. So it's quite tricky in the solo game to keep up with that Yeti, especially with this Avalanche on your tail. Of course, it plays really, really quickly in the solo game, and it can be quite tense, and it's a lot of drama, and it's great fun to just set everything up and race down the mountain. I mean, the other thing you might want to do is just play a straight race. You know, if the kids don't like the Avalanche, take the Avalanche out. If they don't like the Yeti, take the Yeti out. Or if you want to just take rocket launching out altogether, you can do. But that's where the tactics come in, really. Trying to play these pairs or a single card that matches the mountain to give you that boost to push you further down the mountain and potentially swamp your opponents with the Avalanche by forcing it up behind them. So that's the multiplayer game. And so that's really where you can see there's a lot more depth to the multiplayer game than there is in the solo game. But still, it's just a little fun for the solo experience, and some nice balancing mechanisms for the younger ones to play with you. That's Avalanche at Yeti Mountain. We really like it. I hope you've enjoyed this demonstration. Thanks for watching. See you next time.